giving you guys kind of a primer on like the different desks that we have, the different kinds of setups and things like that. I think today, the intermediate stuff, I'm mainly just gonna kind of go through like common troubleshooting stuff that you guys might encounter. You know, kind of as I talked about last time, you know, we're kind of looking to have you guys do some of, you know, the more basic troubleshooting stuff so that, you know, if it's something simple, then you guys can just kind of come out, take care of it so that, you know, it can just get resolved, A, quickly for the clients, and B, we can attend to the other things that we have to take care of. So, I've been doing this a long time. I've been here about 10 years. It's hard for me to distill everything that I've experienced in that time into like a concise form for you guys. So I'm just gonna kind of try and hit the highlights. You guys will probably come across some stuff that I haven't covered here. You know, as I mentioned in the last class, if you guys come across something that you can't figure out, you know, just give us a call and we can help you out. You know, kind of as I mentioned last time, when we get a call from a professor about a classroom, it's generally very general. You know, they're going to say something to the tune of projector's not working, or the computer's not working, or I can't get my presentation up and working. You know, things like that. As I mentioned last time, a lot of times that's going to refer to like a user error of some sort. Sometimes they're user errors, sometimes they're simple errors in the system that somebody might have changed in a previous class, or one of us might have been working in a room and forgotten to switch back. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of that so that you guys know what to expect. A lot of times we'll get professors who are trying to do like videos, like we have a lot of professors that show YouTube videos and things like that. One of the things that they complain about is like they'll call in and be like, I don't have any sound, there's no sound in the room. We'll kind of go over it in hand a little bit, but usually they could be referring to microphones. If there's a microphone in the room and they're trying to use a mic and they're not getting any sound, it could be that. Generally it's going to be something with like a video, like they're trying to play a video, YouTube or something like that, and they'll be getting an image on the PC, but they won't be getting any audio. So kind of as we covered last time, the first three things that you want to check are those three sources of sound. You want to check to make sure that the volume here in the console is turned all the way up. You want to make sure that the system sound, which I think you guys can see already. If you go down into the taskbar, so when I say system, I mean the PC system. If you go down into the taskbar here, there's usually a little speaker. You just go to that. You'll see the slide bar here.
Turn the backlight. Turn the backlight. Turn the backlight. Yeah, that's good.
All right, guys. Try to stick with me. Right here, you know, you can see the slider. Make sure the slider's up. And if you listen, you guys can hear the sound through the speakers up there. So that's one point that you want to check. And then, of course, the player. Like if they're using YouTube, make sure the YouTube video is turned up. If they're using Microsoft, like the Microsoft video player, make sure that it's turned up there. If you go through all those and you guys still aren't getting any sound, that's usually going to indicate a connection issue, because those are pretty much the 3 points like within the system, within the electronics that are going to control volume. When we're trying to troubleshoot a connection issue, that's generally going to refer to obviously like a cable being disconnected. So the most prominent place that you guys are probably going to come across regarding this issue is the audio connection to the back of the PC. Generally in the back of the PC, there's two headphone jacks on these, well, pretty much on both PCs. You'll have like a rear audio output and you'll have a front like headphone jack. Either one of them, they're both the same format. Either one of them's good enough for audio output in a room. That's pretty much what we use. I know it's kind of hard to see here, but you'll see sort of like a little, I know it's really hard to see because Lou's standing completely in front of it. But on the back of here, if you take a look in here, you'll see what looks like a little headphone jack. On most other PCs in the market, it'll be labeled with like a green, like a little green colored. All right, Lou, I think you got it. It'll be labeled with a little green headphone jack.
Just you do the thing, I do the thing.
Right.
I'm gonna do the same phone.
Like if you come across a Dell, all the Dells are going to have like a green jack on the back. That's the audio. The Lenovo's don't have it. Everything's just black. So you're going to have to look for the little headphone jack on the back. On the front, it's pretty much the same thing, but they're just a little bit more obvious. There's a headphone and there's a microphone, so just look for the appropriate one. Microphones are always going to be an input. Headphones are always going to be an output. It depends on how the system was set up. Most computers should just have it coming out the back. Some computers will have it coming out the front. It kind of just depends on how the wiring worked out. So that's the first thing that you guys want to check. If they're not getting audio and all the volumes are turned up, check to make sure that's plugged into the PC. The other thing that we come across is when we deployed our image like a year or two ago, they initially didn't select. So when you guys are using these systems, all the output connections are attached to what's called an adapter. And usually Windows has several sound adapters. Not always, but sometimes. So what you want to do is check to make sure the right sound adapter is selected. So this is generally the way that I go to do it. So if you do a control panel, you type in control on the little magnifying glass here, go to control panel, and go up here, large icons, and this brings you to this page. You go to sound, see all of these are different sound adapters. So these are all the different places on the PC that it will output sound to. The best way, there's really no easy way to select it. Each room is kind of a little different. Essentially, this one refers, so if you guys look on the back of the PC, there's actually like a piece that slides into the back of the PC that sort of docks it onto this monitor. That's what this sound adapter is. Because generally you can, if there's speakers hooked up to the monitor itself, it actually outputs that sound through the digital display port output to the monitor. So that's what that one is going to be selected at. Most of the time, I'd say probably 99% of the cases, you guys are going to have to worry about that. If this is the one that's selected, it's probably wrong. Because most of our rooms are going to have the sound connected directly to the PC. And then each one of these is going to refer to, usually it's either the front output or the rear output. And generally what you'll find is the cable will be connected to the front of the PC, but the rear audio adapter will be selected. Basically, to change that, all you do is you just click on the adapter that you want to try. You go to right click, and then you go to, well, that one's selected already, set as default device. And you'll see a little green check mark pop up. And there's an easy way you can test it. You just go to right click again, you go to test. See? So, and you'll see over here, this little bar goes up and down. So, if you guys are trying to test the PC, for instance, and you guys come into this application to check the sound adapter, and you click test, and you see that little bar hopping up and down, but you don't hear anything, that means that the computer is outputting the sound from its outputs. It means that there's some connection somewhere in the room. That, at that point, that's a connection that deals with the hardware physically in the room. Because that means that the computer's working, that means that that sound adapter is outputting sound, but for some reason it's not coming out. Now, if you see multiple adapters like this, and you test, the sound thing hops up and down, but you don't hear anything, in this case, you want to try it on the other sound adapter, because that might be the one that you need to select. So you go to set as default device, test. So that's one way to troubleshoot sound. Kind of covered this a little bit yesterday. As far as the projectors, a lot of times we'll get professors who are, complaining that a computer or a room isn't working, and generally it means that, it's just the projector isn't working. One of the really easy, quick ways to test to see what's going on with the projector is if you look directly. Now, when I say look directly into the lens, I don't mean literally get in front of the projector and look directly into it. But if you just look at the lens at like an angle like this, you guys can see that there's light coming out of it. Now I'm going to push pick mute, which is going to kill the video signal. Now if you can see, you can still see the lamp turned on in the lens. The screen's black, there's nothing on the screen, but you can still see light coming out. So in that case, that's an indication that basically the projector is working fine. As we kind of covered yesterday, if you get a black screen like this, and you come over and you take a look at the projector, the green lights turn on, and you know it looks like it's operating normally. You take a look at the lens, and you know you have a black screen like this, but you see the lamp on like that. It generally means that there's going to be that means that there's a dead video signal. That means that the connection is there. That means that the computer and the system see the projector, and the projector sees the system. But for some reason, there's no video signal getting fed to the projector. If you guys walk into a room and those two indications on the projector are indicated, you guys see light but a black screen. Anytime you see light coming out of there, that usually means that the projector is working fine. The other secondary indication that you want to check is to check that status light on the top of it. If it's green, that means things are good to go. Every now and then you can come across situations, you know, some of our projectors have gotten really old, they haven't really been serviced a lot. And you can come across situations where, you know, we'll get professors who complain that, you know, hey, we'll get things that say that either, hey, you know, every time I'm in my class and, you know, after 15 minutes the projector cuts out. Or a lot of times we'll get professors who are like, every time I have class at 12:05, the projector shuts off for some reason. You know, can you take it off whatever schedule it's on? It's usually not in, you can't set schedules like that with these projectors. Generally what that means is that the projector turns on fine, it boots up all right, everything turns on, and then generally there's some hardware faults over the course of like 10 or 15 minutes, and then the projector shuts down. If you guys come across that, if you get a ticket that refers to something like that, like, hey, it's shutting off at this time every day, or hey, every time I'm in class, 15 minutes later it shuts off, what we're gonna need you guys to do is to go out, turn the projector on, you know, kind of like with our room check students, it's really easy to go into these classrooms, just go in, turn it on for 5 minutes, play a video, everything seems to be working, boom, bang, get out of there. If we get tickets like that, you know, we have to spend some time in the room troubleshooting. So if you get somebody who complains that, like, you know, like I said, if it's shutting down at this time or it shuts down after this much time, go into the room, turn it on, play a video for like 15, 20 minutes, something like that, and wait to see what happens. If it does shut down, usually in that case, you're gonna get a whole bunch of secondary indicators. So like the lamp, generally in that case, it means that like there's a major hardware fault. So the status light will blink red, the lamp light and the temperature light will both come on and start blinking, and the lamp will shut down. And generally you'll hear the fans start revving up and it'll just run and run and run and run and run. In that situation, you guys need to let us know, because that generally means that we have to replace the projector and that it's dead. So that can be a little deceiving just because it does start up and it works for a little bit, but generally there's some sort of hardware fault and it needs to be replaced at that point. We kind of covered this last time too, but if you guys have
Control.
Huh?
Can you show them control?
The what?
Control
You
function.
showed them last time.
I need it for the video.
Well, Jamie got it last time.
Oh, she got the video.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I lost my train of thought, Lou. So like kind of like we covered last time, if you guys come across either like dead audio, like you guys go through the system, the right adapter's selected, all the volumes are turned up, you guys, you know, go to that sound adapter page and you test all three sound adapters that we had up there. You're not getting any sound. That could be just an indication that the sounds down on the wall plate is unplugged. So that's something that you guys will want to check as well. If you guys come into a room and the projectors turn on, everything appears to be working up there, but you know you've got a blue screen, for instance. Blue screen means that the projector is disconnected from the system. There is a connection on the back of the projector. but generally because that's up on the ceiling, nobody tampers with that. Most of the time when we have a connection issue, it's either because somebody had been tampering with the system. A lot of times professors will try and fix these if they have a small problem, and usually it could be a simple fix. Professors will just try and troubleshoot and fix it themselves in class. So we'll get back there and they'll start tampering with the cables and disconnect the cable. A lot of times, as we kind of went over when we were talking about the cart in HANA 103 or 105 last time, people will move those carts around and they'll either pull the umbilical away from the core, from the wall, or they'll run into the wall connections with the cart itself. I know in Pangborn G23 we have a constant issue because the wall plate's right behind the desk. When they move the chair around to sit down, it pulls the HDMI cable out. So in this room it's a little harder to see because it's behind the table. We can kind of go over it when we go in one of the other classrooms. But if everything looks like it's working up there properly, but you're not getting a video signal, and that's generally going to be indicated by a blue screen. Blue screens indicate that there's no connection. The first thing you definitely want to check would be that wall plate, because most of the time it's just going to have come undone from there. The other thing that you need to check is the back of the PC. We've got a lot of, if you guys come in and the projector is showing like a black screen and everything looks fine, that's going to mean that there's a video signal issue. That means that it's connected to the switcher, but there's no video signal going through that. Generally, that's going to mean that the PC isn't connected to the switcher. Again, we have a lot of professors who will try and troubleshoot these issues. They'll go into the back of the screen, they'll disconnect stuff, and and they'll pull the cable out. I can't tell you how many classrooms I've been to where you go into the classroom and they have unplugged the PC from the system and then plugged the laptop cable into the back of the PC, which isn't going to work. Now, our systems are pretty variable around here in terms of how they're connected to our switching systems. I'd say maybe 2/3 of the rooms are connected via some sort of VGA. The other third are connected usually via DisplayPort or some sort of digital adapter like that. I think you guys all kind of have some experience working with the Lenovo computers, things like that. Most of our Dell computers are going to have, I think all the classrooms should be Lenovo, so we'll just stick with the Lenovo stuff for now. But for instance, this Lenovo has a VGA output. Now, some of the Lenovo's, I think the M900s, only have 2 DisplayPort outputs, so they're going to have an adapter, and they'll usually have a DisplayPort to VGA adapter typically. Some rooms might even just have a straight DisplayPort that goes into the system. Do you guys all know what those formats look like? Do you guys want me to go over that stuff? So, fortunately, I don't know if we have any DisplayPort cables, but this is a VGA cable. This is a VGA cable. Most of the cables that we have on campus are going to be blue like this. Some of them will be gray. They're X-Tran cables. This is an old analog format. This is the one that had been used since time immemorial and has been starting to get phased out of the industry in the past like 4 or 5 years. See, as you can see, we've got a black screen. So that means that the projector is connected to our switcher, but there's no video signal. Now if I plug the video signal back in, it magically reappears. So that's a very good real-world example of why you guys should check the video connection if you come in and you see that problem. Basically, just go into the back of the computer. The video connections for the PC are always going to be on the back side. The back side of the Lenovo's are always going to be this like vented side that you just push this little side pops open like that. They're always going to be over here. If they're in most of our, I think in all of our classrooms, if just a very, very few exceptions, all the classrooms are going to have these mini all-in-ones, so the Lenovo's are going to be docked into the monitors themselves. You're always going to have 2 video outputs. Some classrooms are going to have a DisplayPort and VGA, some are just going to have 2 DisplayPorts. If they're in one of these monitors, one of the DisplayPorts is always going to be used by the monitor. And I was talking about earlier how there's like a part that slides in and docks it. This is this part down here. So this part actually slides in and out, and to dock it to the monitor, you have to slide it in. That docking connection uses one of the DisplayPort outputs. So if you guys look back here, like on this computer, you're only going to see the VGA. So I don't want you guys getting confused if you come in here and you're like, well, Steve, you said there's going to be two outputs, but I only see one. I'm not really sure what's going on. That's what's happening, is that one of those displays is taken up. So you're either going to have one DisplayPort, you're going to have one VGA. This one, thankfully, has its own VGA output. As I mentioned, some of the rooms are going to have adapters, and some are going to have just straight connections. Rarely, if ever, I don't think you guys will ever come across an instance where you're going to have HDMI. It's going to be DisplayPort or VGA. The adapters are pretty simple. It's just like a DisplayPort that sticks in the computer. It has a little piece of cable, and then there's like a big fat piece that blue connection, that blue VGA connection will be plugged into. So again, if you guys come across a situation where the screen's black, check for the VGA, or check the adapter, make sure the adapter is plugged in, or make sure that the adapter and the VGA cable are connected as well. And again, make sure that the connection on the wall is secure as well. Why don't we, it's about 8:30, so why don't we head to HANA 103.